What's up, y'all? This your boy Charles Gregory with the beautiful
LaurenSizzle.
and the beautiful.
What's up, y'all? Classy Lady Sparkle.
Classy Lady Sparkle is definitely in the building, man. Look, you know, one of these things that I really like, right, is always the interviews. And let me tell you why I like the interviews. The reason why I like the interviews are because we get an opportunity to, you know, let everybody know, like, who's actually, you know, that magic that's actually out there doing some major things, right? And, you know, a lot of what I like about people who doing great things are especially when they know you and close to you, right? So this next gentleman, with whom I have a tremendous amount of respect for, right? Now, I'm not going to go too far into it because I know this gentleman, right? He's like family. But when I seen some of the things he's been doing, I was like, you know what, bro? Look, I mean, he could tell you the story. I seen him at an event, my clients, and we could talk to you. It's real interesting how this worked out, right? So we always, you know, we ride. That's my mans in them, right? And so we had an event. Kendra present. Shout out to my clients, Kendra and the family soul in the building, right? So I seen him in the event. I was like, yo, you're doing amazing things right now, man. You have to come to the before I was able to say you had to come to the show. He's like, no doubt it's with. When is it? Let's go. Right? And so he said some things that really kind of, and I didn't get the opportunity to tell him, but you said some things to me which really meant a lot, you know. And you were saying how, you know, some of the things, you know, in terms of my work and what I've been doing for him, you know, and that really kind of like inspired me. And I didn't get a chance to thank you for that because sometimes, you know, when you are performing a service, sometimes the people that's performing the service don't necessarily, you know, kind of get highlighted or you know, kind of get the accolades of recognition. Thankfully, my clients are beautiful people, so they give me a lot of recognition. But for other people that's close to them to see that and give you recognition means the world to me. Mom actually called me, was like, oh my God, you're doing great with my folks. And I was like, that was a good one. So I could talk all day about this gentleman, this comic, this international gentleman. He's doing so many things, man. So I would like to welcome you to the show. Moses, the comic. How are you, my brother?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here.
No doubt. So we got LaurenSizzle in the building, man. We've been talking about you for a minute, man. And she was like, man, he's doing a lot of things. So let's start from the beginning, right?
Now, first, we're going to start from that. I mean, if we being all the way real, number one, this is my first time on We Talk Weekly, and I have to say the hospitality is subpar at best. It's a lot of talking going on. I've not been offered no water. There's no snacks, no hors d'oeuvres. I thought it was going to be some finger foods. I was promised your assistant was going to meet me downstairs. I had to damn near climb up the back steps. It's a lot going on that I just don't feel very welcome.
Yeah, this
okay,
party
I'm very
kinda
parched.
dry.
Is that what it is? Because my throat's dry, too. And basically, I thought that this was going to be, you know, more inviting. But I am happy to be here. I'm just very thirsty.
No doubt. I got to send my intern to go ahead and do that real quick. You know what I'm saying? Look, she getting up. She like, yo, I'm good.
Because she got something to drink, so I just figured it was a community.
I know, right? You know, she makes sure she good, right?
You know what I mean? No, I'm happy to be here, though, man.
No doubt. I appreciate you being here. So let's start from the beginning, man. Like, what actually got you into comedy? You know what I mean? We're gonna take this journey, man, because this is a lot in terms of kind of like you and your spirituality and how that plays a part in your comedy and how it can sometimes pose challenges, because I remember that also, right? And so, yeah, man. And so let's start from the beginning. What actually got you into comedy?
Man, this journey goes back 8 years now.
Wow.
8 years, 2010, at the Laugh House. You know, well, you know, world famous Laugh House.
Shout out to Laugh House, Philly in the building.
Yeah, Philly in the building. And I think my whole life, I think, you know, they say you've been, you know, I think it was Mark Twain who said the two most important days in your life is the day you're born and then the day you figure out why. Mm-hmm. So I think my whole life kind of was gearing me towards that path, because the baby of 6 kids, always just a lot of material, wealth of just interactions with my brothers and sisters. We're all characters. And back in 2010, actually, my wife threw me a 25th birthday party, and it was karaoke. You know what I mean? I was getting my karaoke on. And there was actually another female Muslim young lady there who had told me she was going to be going down to the Laugh House to their open mic type of thing. And I was thinking, like, you know, Muslim sister, this is like taboo. It's like so niche market. Yeah. And she dared me. She was like, you know, come down with me and, you know, it's next week or whatever. And so that party is really what kind of and I attribute her, but really what kind of put me on that path and giving me that inspiration to finally do it. And they used to have this thing at the Laugh House called Funny Money Wednesdays, where you would go. The late great Sugar Bear, he passed away, but hilarious comedian. The way it would work is you would go up and while you're on stage, you would get paid from, they'd be passing a bucket around, and anything that was in the bucket, if you were funny, then you would make some. If you wasn't, you wouldn't. Wow. And so we went, and it was great. I made about $65 that night. So, you know, you couldn't tell me I wasn't like Dave Chappelle. First night I thought I was Dave. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. So I was doing more mainstream comedy when I first started, and things started moving so fast because at the time I didn't realize that what was untraditional was like I had a real routine. It wasn't like me getting up there like, who got roaches? You know, y'all hear, make some noise if you got a face and all that type of stuff. So I actually had a routine that had continuity to it and talking about marriage and relationships and family. And so things like snowballed that really fast. So that first year, man, I was doing shows with Cheryl Underwood and Charlie Murphy and just doing things. And then got a chance to tour with Kevin Hart. And,
which is a funny story.
Yeah.
Because we actually had an opportunity to go to Atlanta. I was with my client, Kendra the Family, so his brother. And now, mind you, we in Miami. Major people there. Kevin Hart, did he have a show? Well, he had a show, a party or something like that.
He had a show at the Jackie Gleason, but then they had a party afterwards.
Yeah, no doubt. So the party was, when you talk about the who's who, was definitely in the building, man.
Denzel was in the building.
Denzel was in the building. Now, mind you, Kendrick, they're kind of like one of the performers there in Miami. Why? He couldn't even get in. Little brother had to get
come on. I had to come on and let my brother into the party. You feel what I'm saying?
That was funny. You know? I was like, he's like, yo, he standing at the door.
That was like my claim to fame.
I know, right?
You know, he's always the one getting me. And he was actually, what's funny, full circles. That was our full circle moment. So the first night at the Laugh House, we got there late. We had to get there for special sign up by a certain time, and we got there late. And so we all outside like bummer. We got to come back next week. Right. And my brother pulls up, and the guy opens the door up. And he goes over there and does what we've come to call the K card. He pulled the K card out, and he got me on. Wow. And so from that day, he was like, and he was the one that actually coined the Moses the Comic name. And so that from that night, he's always said that, that I owed him one. So that was my one, paying him back. I got him into the Kevin Hart party.
No doubt. That's funny. Now, go ahead.
Now I was going to ask, like, did you train, like... Did you take classes or like?
Never. Yeah, I guess the classes was the upbringing with the family.
Wow. That was the training right there.
You don't know his family.
You
definitely know my family. But I think, I've always been great. Obviously, my biggest inspiration was Martin Lawrence. And what I think is great about comedy is every generation has that one. You had Richard Pryor in the 70s, you had Eddie Murphy in the 80s, you had Martin in the 90s, and 2000s, I guess, was, the Dave Chappelle / Kevin Hart. So my inspiration biggest was Martin Lawrence. So that show literally was what taught me about timing, what taught me about inflection, what taught me about body language. And so by the time I really started doing comedy, actually, that was like what I would do. I would try to, as much as possible, kind of like imitate Martin. I had my own material, but it was kind of like trying to deliver like how would Martin deliver this. So if I ever did meet him, I would let him know that you was a huge inspiration for me. So no, I never took any classes. It was just all trial and error. Yeah,
that's dope.
Now let's talk a little bit about, because you talked about content, you talked about time and delivery. Let's talk a little bit about just you and your content. Yeah, you actually focus on pretty clean comedy.
Not always,
but in terms of language, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting because you get a lot of flack from, comedians using certain terminology as they speak or go through their bit. And so why do you focus on the content that you focus on?
Well, first and foremost, when I started doing comedy, you're with anything, when you're trying to find your voice, that's authentically you and develop your style, you kind of do mimic and cherry pick from things that have inspired you. Right. And, coming out, I just started, was like filth, flarm, flim. You just had to, the whole 9 yards, the F's and S's and all that in the third. And actually Kevin Hart, who's, known for being kind of provocative and profane, was the one who told me early on, when I asked him advice that he would give to a new comedian, his first thing was get a clean routine. Get a clean routine because clean routine is what can separate you know, the Jerry Seinfelds from the Chris Rocks,
Yes.
and it really is what will take you more mainstream. You know, if you want to go into late night TV and do different things. So when I first started, again, I was kind of, you know, profane and really trying to find that voice. But I had a niche market as well because I was really like one of the first Muslim comedians, I guess, quote unquote. I hate that term. Comedians that was Muslim from Philadelphia. So a lot of the different Muslims were coming out to an event I would do called Let My People Laugh. And shout out to my man Al from, he gave me my first opportunity. And so, you know, after that, what happened was, so the first like 5 years of me doing comedy was really kind of me trying to find my footing in that. And then I had the opportunity, man, for the past 3 years, like about 3 years ago. And I mean, I'm talking about, I used to do a web series called FTS. Y'all can imagine what that stands for. F was the F word and TS, you know, F this S. And where I would interview celebrities on things that make them want to say that term. So we had Charlie Murphy, rest in peace. We had Monique on the show, Avant on the show, Raheem Devon was on the show. And it was a web series. And so, you know, that'll show you some of the type time that I was on at that time. But 3 years ago, yeah, man, I had an offer to a friend of mine that was doing clean comedy and doing more faith-based markets, tried to take me to Australia. And I'm going to say how that came full circle because they Googled me. And it's FTS and, you know, all this different stuff coming up. They're like, no, thank you. And so, yeah, that was 4 years ago. So that didn't happen. So then 3 years ago, the opportunity came and run again. He's like, listen, man, if you want to get in this market, it's paying great money. You can travel tour the world. You got to clean your stuff up. And that was like, you know, at the time, I mean, we were $75, $100, 50 shows. And man, I went, blocked everything on YouTube that I had up. I started emailing and sending messages out to people who had clips of me on social media. Like, can you make that private? And, you know, I'm trying something new just to kind of get my foot in the door, man. Long story short, I wound up doing that tour. We did maybe 6 or 7 shows, man. They paid me $10,000. Very first international tour. We did 6 cities all throughout the UK. And so that was my first taste of, I guess, doing clean comedy.
Right.
And, man, when I came back, I was like permanently deleting all that stuff that was on social media. And since then, I started to see that just clean comedy in general, that kind of came full circle with what Kevin Hart told me as well, was just that this was the market that I never felt comfortable doing that stuff anyway. And I remember before my father died, you know, I really wanted to get, he died in 2010, I believe, when I told him I was going to do comedy and wanted his blessing. And, you know, the only advice he ever gave me was don't ever sacrifice your integrity, compromise your integrity for success. And that's really kind of what I felt in those markets so much, was doing stuff that was not authentically me and compromising who I was.
Right.
And now it's like seeing that you can have your own lane and be authentically you, true to who you are, and that opportunities and doors are open that can, you know, make you successful.
Right.
So I never looked back since then.
Wow.
And full circle, just that story that, you know, that first year in Australia. So next week on the 13th, I'm leaving for a 2-week tour of Australia, going all through Australia with the organization that first denied me like 4 years ago. You know, now they pick me up. So
Now let's get into like your spirituality. There's so many questions. I'm gonna try to get into all these questions in, because yeah, man, I think you got a dynamic situation that you're kind of going into, and a lot of challenges and stuff that I know that you have faced. And so let's talk a little bit about, what do you think? No, let's talk about spirituality first. Now, since we're talking about like clean, quote unquote, clean comedy, right? Now you are you have no problem with, you know, talking about your spirituality.
no.
Right. And one, why do you think, because some people do have a problem with talking about their spirituality, thinking that they won't get the support. But I want you to answer 2 questions. Why are you so open with your spirituality? And 2, what were the challenges because of your spirituality that you face in being a comic?
Well, first, I've been called, you know, I was told I was an oxymoron, you know, a while ago because I'm a Muslim comedian. And again, just to kind of differentiate that term, to put it in context, I guess it's different or similar to like people like my brother and them. They really like kind of despise that term, neo soul. You know, when you hear that term, because it kind of does put you into that box, and where it's like it's music, it's R&B, whatever. Right. So I don't identify as or establish myself as doing Muslim comedy. I'm a comedian. I'm Muslim, and the comedy that I do is clean comedy. The same set that I do on this tour that I'm on now, that's actually called the Super Muslim Comedy Tour, is the same set that I've done at the Laugh Factory in LA or at the Hollywood Improv, which is just a clean routine. I think the misconception that people have is like you're getting up there and it's like, talking about a law and making salad and this, that, and the third. No, it's just more, I'm not cursing, but I'm talking about things that are universal concepts, family, relationships, and my wife and her cooking, which is horrible, by the way. Shout out to my wife.
Cut it out. And, I know your wife.
Yeah, you don't know her food, though. But basically, so I'm talking about a lot of different concepts that are universal. But I think for me, once I became comfortable with who I was within my skin, it was just like, this is who I am. So I don't have any problem talking about, even though my material isn't necessarily geared towards that, I don't wear it on my sleeve. I wear it on my body, as you can see my sweet shirt that I got on. But no, I'm Muslim, so I don't have any problem really kind of talking about that in the sense of being able to make any of those people laugh. Whether I go to a Muslim comedy show or do a regular comedy show, it's just who I am. And all that really just establishes is that there are certain things that I won't compromise. You know what I mean? For my integrity or just for my environment is, I don't drink, I don't smoke, and, I'm not eating no pork, which is, so it's just, I think who I am intrinsically. So,
So there's a lot of things that's going on in Hollywood. I want to jump in there, right? And so because you're from Philly, first I want to talk about Mr. Blackson, Michael Blackson, and Kevin Hart. Both from Philly.
Mike Blackson.
I know, right? Mother sucker, right? Mother sucker.
Two pioneers from Philly, two inspirations.
Yes.
So I want you to talk a little bit about that. We're going to go into Monique. We're going to go into a lot of different things, man. I'm going to try to get all these questions in, man. But you from Philly, and you're making your way, and you making waves, man, and you're doing a lot of great things. So what's your take on kind of like what you believe this beef is between Michael Blackson and Kevin Hart, and what's your take on it?
First, I respect both of them guys, man. They've both given me great opportunities. I think that, what y'all don't realize, that it's politics and everything. The fact that you would think it's politics and comedy. Right. But if you don't know, let me be the first to tell. Comedians we're some of the most sensitive bunch that you're ever from. We're so sensitive. What Erykah Badu say, I'm sensitive about my stuff. So we're very sensitive, even though we can, we dish it out or whatever. I think with that particular situation, man, Kev just really assumed that it would be off limits, but he put it out there. Michael Blackson is known for just highlighting everything. The one thing I'll say about Michael Blackson, he's an equal opportunist roaster. He gets on himself first and foremost, and anything that's kind of out there is room. So I think it really was just Kevin Hart really took offense to thinking that, it's like this. It's like if you do something, you my man. You are my man. Let me establish that, okay? Right. But you will get roasted. Okay, if need be, and I think because of the sensitivity of the content, I think he was really kind of taken aback by that, and I was surprised at Kevin though. I really thought that he would have, at that point you went out there, you put that Instagram video out there, you looked silly, and Blackson just kind of picked it up.
So I was going to ask that. So what's off limits? Do you think anything is off limits?
Kids are off limits. Okay. Kids are definitely off limits. Really, I do think wives are off limits as well.
All right, so there we go. So
but here's the thing. Okay. But he necessarily wasn't talking about his wife, though. Right, he was making jokes about the side Jones. Side Jones are very much on limit. They're very much on limit. All my side Jones out there. Not mine personally. My wife might be listening. I'm just saying.
I know your wife.
Okay, all these side Jones that's out there, by the way. And you're a side Jones, first off. If I always ask chicks, were you ever on ends when you was coming up? When you was playing double jugs, because then you've been a size chick since the beginning. That's how you know. Just think back to elementary school when you always was on ends, challenge. You've been a size chick since day one. So, I think kids are off limits. I think wives are off limits. I actually, what's funny is, I guess this might sound ironic, but I really think religion is kind of off limits as well. I really don't. I don't.
Coming from the comedian who's Muslim.
Yeah. I don't get up there and talk about. Now I do have jokes that highlight just nuances within Christian. What's funny is I do jokes and material that I do highlight jokes about highlights within Christianity and highlights within Islam, but it's not derogatory. Yeah. But kids, man, definitely should be off limits. So I didn't think that was. Too bad. Yeah,
now it's getting to the point where like people will be ready to go to blows for sexual preference. That's kind of
that's big now. Yeah. And I try to stay away from that. I got into a heated debate with that this weekend with my sister, so I kind of stay away from sexual preferences and different things because people, I stay out of people's bedrooms.
Did you see what was that? The Breakfast Club, Lil Duval.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, that was pretty. And the great thing about comedy is that people, even within things that have nothing to do with comedy, it's just become common for people want these sound bites from the comedians. They want to know what our perspective and takes is on Trump and relationships or whatever it is.
Right.
And so a lot of these comedians, man, they be saying some off the wall stuff. Faison been getting. He been in the news.
He went
a lot
at
lately. He went in kind of hard.
Dave Chappelle neck.
Yeah, that which I thought was ridiculous.
Yeah.
The man said Dave Chappelle ain't
Wasn't
never been funny
funny.
to
Yeah, what do you
black
think of
people. Man, Dave Chappelle, shout out to the GOAT.
Yeah, he's
of
the
course,
GOAT.
Yes,
the
he
straight
is.
GOAT. I've never seen nobody. There's two comedians that, other than Martin Lawrence, that really inspired me, which was Dave Chappelle and Seinfeld. Those are the two comedians that I saw live that it's the next level. You just, Dave Chappelle literally is your favorite comedian's favorite comedian. Just the way he writes and the way he's able to, which I loved about his specials. That last one where he came out and was like, and I didn't think it was cocky at all. He's like, I know this is gonna go well. I'm so good at being able to write jokes. I can write them backwards, forwards, and which is so true. He's just next level. So I thought Faison. No, I thought that was some hate.
All right.
Yeah.
So check this out, man, because I can let you talk for days, man. It's a great interview, and we running out of time. It's crazy.
Oh man.
And so check this out. You have, because you was talking about decorated comedians and the GOATs. Let's talk about the most decorated comedian, or,
Or lack thereof.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'm gonna let you talk a little bit about this. So what's your take on Madam GOAT? Because we have to give her props. I actually think the most decorated female comedian is probably Whoopi
We
Goldberg.
got Whoopi. Yeah. I didn't know what she meant by. But does she mean, that's actively doing stand-up? Because I don't, if Whoopi's alive, I don't really see how you can try to take that designation. So I don't know. I thought she was probably, I don't know.
So how do you
She been
take
tripping.
Monique when she, feels that people should rally behind her, right, and boycott Netflix?
Hello, my loves. Daddy, listen here, Daddy. It's a lot of weirdness going on over there. And I don't know, man. I think she just went about it the wrong way. What she was saying was, of course, true. There's disparity, of course, within pay with women and female comedians.
Right.
But then then there's these subcategories because it's like us being, just men, but then being black men. That's the subcategory. Then being Muslim black man. So then you got you're a woman, you're a comedian, then you're a black woman comedian. So that just taking her further and further down the rings. So what she was saying was true. However, first of all, you're not asking no black people to boycott Netflix. First, I don't even pay for Netflix, and I'm not boycotting
Netflix
it. You
and
feel what I'm saying?
chill.
Yeah, I got about 3 or 4 different passwords that I use, but it was the boycott. Yeah, I got about 3 or 4 because some got commercials free. My Hulu, I got some commercial free passwords that I use as well. But yeah, I just thought she was tripping, asking us to boycott. But I love Monique. Yeah. I really, she was on one of my episodes. My FTS web series back in the day, and I think people, honestly, what I think it is with Monique, people are really just turned off by her husband. I honestly think people just feel as if that, he's this puppet master and kind of got these strings, which is not the case. I don't think it's the case, but I think it really goes into the deeper root of people seeing just assertive, strong black man, coming into these meetings and demanding things that we're supposed to kind of be on our best behavior. And he's like, no, he's not going for that okie doke like she's saying. It's always the next time. We'll get him the next time. And as a comedian, I've dealt with that. We got you on the next one. The next show, you can get this. And it's like, enough is enough. So
we got about 5 more minutes, man. Check this
hello,
out.
my loves.
That's funny.
I want y'all to stand with me and boycotting breakfast because I ate this morning and I was still hungry. So everybody that's out there, I want y'all to boycott breakfast. Don't y'all have breakfast. Go straight to brunch.
What's your take on Me Too, the Me Too movement?
Me
As a
Too.
man, yeah.
Mr. Me Too, the clips, you mean?
Mr. Me
Okay,
Too,
Mr. Me Too.
Hashtag Me
Oh
Too.
man, the Me Too movement is, that joint is bringing out a lot of much needed conversations. And one of my sayings that I love is, anything done in the dark is going to come to the light. So I love it. I actually was a supporter of, a lot of these guys, man, this stuff that's been going on and even things within comedy that are really kind of like going on, you got the Louis C.K. stuff and different comedians that's coming out. And for years, it's just been this culture of, derogatory behavior from comedians, especially to female comedians that they've really had to deal with, wanting to get on and having to, like, dudes just, jerking off in front of them and doing crazy stuff. And so I support the Me Too, man, and I think that it's great that the conversation is being had, to really kind of bring a lot of that to light. And it's empowering and giving a voice to these women, man, that has just been isolated. So, yeah.
What would you do now? What would you do differently that if you knew then, what you know now, what would you do differently?
It's a lot of things I wouldn't have eaten back then because I've gained a lot of weight. They say when you gain weight after you've been married for a while, you know what they say, you look what? You look happy. They say a fat person came up with that first off because I'm not happy. I'm very depressed. I got some afraid on the car. I actually cried on my way up here. That's why I was glad you didn't come down and get me. I want you to see that. So it's a lot of things I wouldn't eat back then 8 years ago. What would I do differently? You know what? Probably nothing.
What would you tell your younger self?
Younger self, that everything's gonna be okay. I think, a motto that I live by is innovation is rewarded, but execution is worshipped. So I would have told my younger self back then, which is an innovation is creativity. And back then, I didn't realize it's not enough to be creative. Right. Execution is the only thing that separates those who are successful from those that could have been successful. Right. And you can come up with a great idea. Steve Jobs could have come up with the iPhone and left it in his garage for all of that. But if you don't execute and and bring it to the masses, then it really just kind of like stays in that idea stage. So I would have told my younger self, just go for it. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to execute.
Wow. This is my last question. And then I'm going to let LaurenSizzle jump in from here. This is a question that I ask all of our guests. So you got to dig into your bag.
Come on now.
All right. What's the one thing that you can tell us here, We Talk Weekly, right, that you never told anybody else that you're giving us the exclusive on?
The exclusive? Man. I mean, how raw can I get?
Raw.
I can get real raw? Eddie Murphy's 80s raw?
Just leave the bad words out, but you can get as raw as you like.
Woo, Lord have mercy. Let's see. The one thing that I've never told anyone, you know what? I was embarrassed because I got robbed one time early on. I was hyped when I think it was when the PS4 or something came out. I wanted it, and this was I think PS2 or 3. I wasn't really necessarily doing comedy at the time, but I was hyped, and they hit me with the more money. I paid the guy. He came to my job and had the PS4 in the box, and I paid for it, and I was hyped, and I got it home, and there was rocks and newspapers in it. I was so hyped in that moment. I bought it on the street, didn't open it up, and it was like Metro newspapers in it and some rocks. And I was so embarrassed because I had posted about having this PS3 or 4, whatever it was. And
people wanted to come over and play.
People want to come over and play it. That's exactly what happened. I have another brother named Mustafa. He remembers this story. He was supposed to come over. We was going to like get the Madden on in the whole 9 yards. But this went on for like years that I like kept this lie going that, it was broken. And, I got to run out to the store real quick, play the numbers. And so I'm here to tell Mustafa and everybody else out there that there was rocks and newspapers in that PlayStation.
Wow.
And that I got and that I actually, spent bill money to get it and had to lie at the time. It was my half of the rent. So shout out to my roommate, who's still one of my friends, that I lied that time you had to pay the full rent that month. Is because I spent my half on that PlayStation. So
wow. Sizzle, what you got for?
So one last question. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Or what's next for you? TV shows, movies?
Yeah. So right now I'm touring with an organization called Penny Appeal on this tour that I created and called the Super Muslim Comedy Tour. So this is the third round that we're doing it. Next week, we'll go to Australia for the 5 days, and I'm working on a web series right now that we actually start filming next week, 3-camera shoot. It's called It's Always Sunni in Philadelphia. Shout out. Yeah, I mean, it's always Sunni. They call the city Little Mecca. So, yeah, it's almost like a Curb Your Enthusiasm, is centered around my life type of thing. But in the next 5 years, what I plan to do, what I want to do with my comedy is really, I do want to break those stereotypes down, that those misconceptions that people have about Muslims, that, we laugh, we joke, we take care of our kids, we watch TV, we listen to music, we do some of the same things. So I want to kind of bridge that gap between that divide. but
Right.
you know, that informational divide. I don't think it's necessarily a divide between the people, but the perceptions of the
Right.
people. So in the next 5 years, I would love to do my first comedy special. It's going to be called Let My People Laugh, of course. You know, Moses the comic, Let My People Laugh. And just enjoying life. I'm having so much fun right now. I was telling him last time I saw him that, you know, I've been doing comedy for 8 years now, and I'll say only over the past 5 months have I felt like I've been walking in my purpose. You know, and my goal for January, for this whole year, was to just 100% give 100% to comedy, and it's been incredible. That meme that you see going around, that, you know, I'm living now for, you know, I'm experiencing now things that I prayed for. And that's exactly true. You know, things that I've been praying for the past, 7.5, I've just now been experiencing over the past 5 months. So that's what I always tell people. It's a grind, you know. And a lot of times when we see people and they see y'all now that you might be on, or their level perception of on, that they don't realize what you've gone through to get there. That it was 10 years before that, before you even got. I remember when this guy, you know what I mean, was just talking into, you know, those little GoPro things that we used to get from Rite Aid. Now look at him. You up and I'm not, baby. I mean, you got microphones, there's boom mics all over the place, beautiful women. Juices is not being offered. You got banners in the background. You came a long way, and I'm impressed with you, brother.
My man, you know, we violated every segment of this show, man, because you was here, man. We really appreciate that, man. And so, before we let you go, tell us where they can get in contact with you, man.
Everything's Moses the Comic. My website is, of course, mosesthecomic.com, but Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything is Moses, TheComic. I tell people don't follow me because I don't know where I'm going, but, you know, you can come give me a shout out. But and if you want to purchase tickets for the tours at pennyofpill.org.au.
Can they find that on your?
They can, yeah.
Okay,
they
there
can
we
go
go.
to mosesthecomic.com and
No
find all
doubt, no
that,
doubt.
yeah.
We really appreciate that. We're gonna make sure you go to our Facebook and everything, and you can find out how you can get these tickets and everything.
What's up, you guys? It's your girl, Classy Lady Sparkle with We Talk Weekly. Have you subscribed to our YouTube